The credit card machine beeped 3 times. Sharp, final sounds that cut through the perfume-heavy air of Sephora. My mother didn't flinch. She just smiled at the cashier, her freshly painted nails drumming against the glass counter while the receipt printed. 4 figures. I saw the total before she folded it into her designer purse. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Bank alert. I pulled it out with shaking hands and watched my college fund balance refresh once, twice, then settle on a number that made my vision blur. $0.18. The money I'd been watching grow since I was 7 years old, gone. Not spent on an emergency. Spent on anti-aging serums and limited edition lip kits. My mother turned to me, lip gloss catching the fluorescent light, and said with that practiced smile, "Don't be dramatic, Etta. You'll figure it out." The cashier handed her the bag, heavy with boxes. My throat locked. My ears started ringing. And my mother, chin lifted like she was posing for a camera that wasn't there, asked if there was a loyalty discount for next time. The parking lot was too bright. Sunlight bounced off car hoods and stabbed into my eyes. I followed my mother to her car, my legs moving on autopilot while my brain tried to process what just happened. She popped the trunk, placed her shopping bags inside like they were made of glass, then turned to me with that same unbothered expression. "Mom," I started, my voice cracking. "That was my college fund." She waved her hand, dismissing my words like annoying flies. "Oh, Etta, stop being so ungrateful. Do you know how hard I work to maintain appearances? How much pressure am I under?" I felt heat spreading through my hands into my chest. I wanted to scream. Instead, I kept my voice level controlled. "That money had my name on it. Grandma set it up for my education." She laughed, actually laughed, and opened her car door. "Technically, it was a joint account. My money too. You'll be fine. You're smart, right? Get a scholarship or something." Then she slid into the driver's seat and started the engine, leaving me standing there in the parking lot, 18 cents to my name. I didn't cry until I got home. Not in the store, not in the parking lot, not on the bus ride back to our apartment. I held it together until I locked my bedroom door, sat on the floor, and let the words repeat in my head like a mantra I couldn't escape. My mother emptied my college fund to pay for her cosmetics. Not a medical emergency. Not rent. Not food. Cosmetics. Face creams that promised to erase 10 years. Lipsticks in shades she'd wear once. Serums with ingredients I couldn't pronounce. My future, converted into products that would sit in her bathroom cabinet, half-used, forgotten in 3 months. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app again, hoping I'd misread something. But no. The account that once held $23,000 now showed 18 cents. I took a screenshot. Then I opened my Notes app and typed a single sentence at the top of a new document. Rules of engagement. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would not beg. I would not cry to her again. I would build something she couldn't touch. My name is Etta Morrison. I'm 19 years old, white, American, raised in a 2-bedroom apartment that always smelled like whatever expensive perfume my mother was trying that month. I was taught to be polite, to trust family, to believe that money set aside for education was sacred. My grandmother believed that too. When I was 7, she opened that college fund account. Every birthday, every Christmas, every report card with good grades, she'd add money. She'd hand me the deposit slip and say, "This is your ticket out, baby. Education is freedom." She died when I was 15, but the account kept growing from the initial investment she'd made. Compound interest, she'd called it. Magic money that multiplies while you sleep. By my 18th birthday, it had grown to $23,000, enough for 2 years at state school, maybe 3 if I was careful. My mother's name was on the account too, just as a custodian, I thought. Just to manage it until I turned 18. I never imagined she'd see it as hers, but I should have known. I should have seen the pattern. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. I spent that first night digging through paperwork. My grandmother had given me a folder when I was 15, right before she passed. "Keep this safe," she'd said. "Don't let anyone tell you it's not yours." Inside, I found the original account documents, my grandmother's signature. My name is printed in careful block letters. And yes, my mother's name listed as joint owner with right of survivorship. The phrase made my stomach turn. Joint owner. Legal access. I pulled up the bank statements I'd been ignoring for months. My mother had been good at hiding it. Small withdrawals at first. 300 here, 500 there. Spread out over 18 months so I wouldn't notice the balance dropping too fast. But in the last 3 months, the withdrawals got bigger, bolder. 2,000, 3,000. Today's final withdrawal, $4,800. She drained it systematically, carefully, like she'd planned it. Like she'd been waiting for me to stop checking so closely. I took pictures of every page, backed them up to 3 different cloud services. Then I opened a new document and started making a list of every scholarship deadline I could find. I made rules for myself that night, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor with my laptop screen casting blue light across my face. Rule 1, no yelling. Yelling gives them ammunition. It makes you look unstable, emotional, easy to dismiss. Rule 2, document everything. Every conversation, every text, every promise broken. Evidence talks louder than feelings. Rule 3, become financially independent as fast as possible. No more sharing anything. No more trusting her with access to my life. Rule 4, no revenge plans that could backfire. No slashing tires, no social media rants, no dramatic confrontations, just quiet, strategic distance. Rule 5, let natural consequences do the work. Arrogant people destroy themselves. You just have to step back and let them. I wrote these rules in a notebook I kept hidden under my mattress. I read them every morning before I got out of bed. They kept me focused when I wanted to scream. They kept me cold when I needed to be warm. And they worked. Starting the next day, I became someone my mother didn't recognize, someone she couldn't manipulate, someone who didn't need her anymore. The office job came faster than I expected. Mitchell and Associates, a small accounting firm that smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. Gray cubicles, fluorescent lights that hummed like insects, a break room with a fridge full of labeled lunches no one trusted. My manager, Dennis, was a middle-aged man who wore the same blue tie every Monday and timed bathroom breaks like he was coaching a sports team. "You'll start at $14 an hour," he said during my interview, not looking up from my resume. "Full-time benefits after 90 days. Are you good with data entry?" I was good with anything that paid. "Yes, sir. You can start Monday." I started Monday. 40 hours a week, sometimes more when Dennis needed reports done by end of day. I'd leave for work at 7 in the morning, come home at 6, eat something cheap, then study until midnight. My first paycheck felt like a miracle. $960 after taxes. I opened a new bank account at a different bank, one my mother had never heard of. No joint access, no authorized users, just me. I deposited every cent and felt something shift inside my chest. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I waited 2 weeks before I asked her about it. 2 weeks of silence, of coming home and going straight to my room, of avoiding eye contact at breakfast. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "Are you going to pout forever?" she asked one evening, standing in my doorway with her arms crossed. I looked up from my laptop, where I was filling out my 10th scholarship application of the week. "I need you to pay back the college fund." She blinked. Then she laughed, that same sharp sound from the parking lot. "Oh, you're still on that. Etta, grow up. That money's gone. I needed it." "For what? Face cream." Her expression hardened. "For maintaining the life we have. Do you think appearances are free? Do you think people respect women who let themselves go?" I kept my voice calm, even though my hands were shaking. "Grandma left that money for my education, not your skincare routine." She stepped into my room, and I saw something dangerous in her eyes. "Let me explain something to you. That was a joint account. Legally, I had every right to use it. And frankly, I think I deserve it after raising you alone for 19 years. Consider it a loan. You'll pay me back someday." Then she left, closing the door behind her. 3 in the morning. My desk lamp was the only light in the apartment. I had 7 browser tabs open: scholarship databases, student loan calculators, part-time job listings, cost breakdowns for state school versus community college. My eyes burned, my back ached. The coffee I'd made at midnight was cold and bitter, but I drank it anyway because I needed to stay awake. The numbers were brutal. State school tuition, $18,000 a year. Room and board, $12,000. Books and supplies, $2,000. Even with my office job, even with every spare dollar saved, I was short, way short. I found a grant I'd overlooked before. The Riverside Merit Grant. Full tuition for students demonstrating academic excellence and financial need. The application was due in 2 weeks. I clicked through the requirements, my heart beating faster with each line. Essay, transcripts, tax documents, personal statement, and an interview with a selection panel. I could do this. I had to do this. I started typing the essay at 3:15 in the morning. By the time the sun came up, I had a first draft. By the time I left for work, I had a plan that didn't include my mother's money at all. The grant interview was on a Tuesday afternoon in a conference room that smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. 3 people sat across from me, 2 women and 1 man, all holding clipboards, all wearing neutral expressions that gave nothing away. "Tell us about your financial situation," the man said, his pen hovering over his notes. I didn't cry. I didn't villainize. I just documented. My grandmother established a college fund for me when I was 7. She passed away when I was 15, leaving $23,000 in an account designated for my education. That account was emptied 3 weeks ago by my mother, who used the funds for personal expenses. I'm currently working full-time at an accounting firm to support myself and pay for school. I'm applying for this grant because I believe education is a right I'm willing to work for, not a privilege I'm willing to beg for. The woman on the left leaned forward slightly. "And your relationship with your mother now?" I met her eyes. "Distant. I'm learning that family doesn't mean access, it means respect, and respect has to go both ways." The man wrote something down. The other woman smiled just slightly. "We'll be in touch within 2 weeks," she said. I left that room feeling lighter than I had in months. I locked everything down after that. New bank account already done. Next, I froze my credit. Then I changed every password on every account I had. Email, student portal, social media, even my library card. I enabled 2-factor authentication. I set up alerts for every login attempt. If my mother wanted access to my life, she'd have to break down a digital fortress. She noticed within a week. "Why can't I log into your student account?" She asked over breakfast, her voice tight with irritation. "Because I changed the password." "Why would you do that? I need to check your grades." I poured myself coffee, didn't look at her. "I'm an adult. You don't need access to my academic records. I'm your mother, and I'm not a child anymore." She slammed her mug down on the counter hard enough to make me flinch, but I didn't take it back. That evening, I got a notification that someone had tried to reset my email password. The attempt came from my mother's phone. I denied it. Then I logged the attempt in my notes app with a timestamp and screenshot. Rule 2, document everything. It was already paying off. Family dinner that Sunday was uncomfortable. My Aunt Carol, my mother's older sister, had invited us to her house for pasta and wine. I didn't want to go, but my mother insisted. "We can't look like we're falling apart," she'd said. So I went, sat quietly at the table and watched my mother perform. She was good at it. Laughing at the right moments, complimenting Aunt Carol's cooking, asking my cousin Jake about his new job. Then, over tiramisu, she said it. "I've been investing in myself lately," she announced, swirling her wine glass. "Self-care isn't selfish, you know. I got this incredible serum last month and I swear I look 5 years younger." Aunt Carol smiled politely, but I saw the question forming behind her eyes. "That's nice. Those things are expensive though, aren't they?" My mother waved her hand. "Oh, I had some savings set aside. You have to prioritize yourself sometimes." Jake frowned. Didn't Etta's grandmother leave her a college fund? The table went quiet. My mother's smile froze. I didn't say anything. I just took a sip of water and watched. Aunt Carol's eyes flicked to me, then back to my mother. "You didn't." My mother laughed, but it sounded forced. "It was a joint account, Carol, perfectly legal." The rest of dinner was tense. No one said it out loud, but the air had changed. They'd seen something they couldn't unsee. I drafted the letter on a Wednesday night after work. Formal, polite, direct. No emotion, just facts. "Dear Mom, I am formally requesting a full accounting of the withdrawals made from the college fund account ending in 4732 between January and April of this year. This includes dates, amounts, and purposes for each transaction. As the intended beneficiary of these funds, I believe I have the right to understand how my educational savings were used. Please provide this information within 14 days. Sincerely, Etta Morrison." I printed it, signed it, and left it on the kitchen counter before I went to work the next morning. When I came home, it was gone. I waited 3 days, no response, so I sent the same letter via email with a read receipt enabled. She opened it at 2:47 p.m. on a Saturday. At 3:15 p.m., I received a reply. "You ungrateful, disrespectful child. I don't owe you an explanation for how I spend MY money. If you want to act like a lawyer, hire one. Otherwise, drop this ridiculous crusade and focus on being less selfish." I saved the email, backed it up, added it to my growing folder of evidence, Then I replied with one sentence, "I'll take that as a refusal to provide documentation. Noted." Her response came in seconds, all caps, "You're out of control." I didn't reply. Work became my refuge. I showed up early, stayed late, and did every task Dennis asked without complaint. I learned pivot tables and VLOOKUP formulas. I organized filing systems that hadn't been touched in years. I made myself indispensable, not because I loved accounting, but because I needed the stability. 3 months in, Dennis called me into his office. "You're doing good work, Etta, really good. I'm bumping you to 17 an hour effective immediately." I blinked. Seriously, don't make me regret it." The office threw a small celebration during lunch. Stale donuts and lukewarm coffee, but people clapped. It felt hollow and real at the same time. That afternoon, I checked my email during my break. Subject line, Riverside Merit Grant Decision. My hands shook as I opened it. "Dear Ms. Morrison, we are pleased to inform you." I didn't read the rest right away. I just sat there in the break room, staring at the screen, feeling something crack open inside my chest. Relief, grief, vindication, all at once. I'd done it. Without her. Despite her. I forwarded the email to myself twice just to make sure it was real. Then I went back to work and finished my reports, a quiet smile on my face. The grant covered full tuition and a book stipend. Not housing, not meals, but it was enough. Combined with my job, I could make it work. I enrolled in evening classes at the state school, planned my schedule around my 40-hour work week. It was brutal. I won't pretend it wasn't. I'd work 8 hours, drive to campus, sit through 3-hour lectures, drive home, study until midnight, then wake up and do it again. My mother didn't congratulate me. She didn't even acknowledge it. But I saw her spending escalate. New purses, new shoes, subscription boxes arriving at the apartment every week. She'd open them in the living room, piling tissue paper on the coffee table, trying on lipsticks in the hallway mirror. I said nothing, just watched, just documented. One evening, I checked her credit card statement. I know I shouldn't have had access, but she'd left her laptop open, email logged in, and I couldn't help myself. $15,000 in new debt. Interest accumulating. Minimum payments barely cover the charges. I took screenshots, backed them up, and closed the laptop. Natural consequences, I reminded myself. Just let it happen. I started returning things. Not my things. Hers. She'd used my debit card once months ago before I locked everything down. She'd bought skincare products on my account and never paid me back. Technically, I had receipts. Technically, I could return them within the store's 90-day policy. So I did. I went through her bathroom cabinet one afternoon while she was at brunch with friends. I found unopened boxes, products with tags still attached, receipts folded inside the packaging. I took them to Sephora, to Ulta, to department store cosmetics counters. "I'd like to return these, please. Original payment method." The cashiers scanned the receipts, processed the returns, and handed me back money that had been mine to begin with. $600 total. Not a fortune, but enough to prove a point. When my mother noticed, she exploded. "You went through my things, you stole from me." I didn't yell back. I just pulled up the bank statements showing the purchases made on my account. I returned items that were bought with my money. Legally, that's not theft. That's the recovery of assets. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe that was the point. Aunt Carol called me in late September. "Etta, honey, can we talk?" I was walking home from campus, textbooks heavy in my backpack. "Sure, what's up?" "I got a call from your grandmother's estate trustee. Apparently there's been some concern about the college fund account. They do periodic audits of custodial accounts, and yours was flagged because of the withdrawal pattern." My heart started racing. Flagged how? They want to review how the money was used. Since it was designated for education, and the funds were withdrawn for non-educational purposes by the custodian, they're required to investigate. "I thought you should know." I stopped walking. "What happens if they find misuse?" "Depends. Could be anything from a formal reprimand to legal action requiring repayment. I'm not a lawyer, but I know your grandmother set up that fund with specific instructions. If those instructions were violated, there could be consequences." I thanked her, hung up, and stood on the sidewalk for 5 full minutes processing. I hadn't reported anything. I hadn't filed complaints. The system had flagged it on its own. Natural consequences. Just like I'd planned. I didn't tell my mother, I just waited. Within 2 weeks, she got a letter. Formal, legal, requesting documentation and an explanation. She called me frantic. I didn't answer. Let her panic. The accounts were frozen in early October. Not mine, hers. The trustee had flagged the misuse of custodial funds and initiated a formal review. While they investigated, my mother's access to certain accounts was temporarily suspended. I didn't know all the details, but I heard her on the phone, arguing with bank representatives, her voice climbing higher and sharper with every call. "This is ridiculous. I'm being audited over my own daughter's account. She's fine. She's in school. This is harassment." I sat in my room, studying for midterms, listening to her fall apart in the next room. Her cosmetic subscriptions started bouncing. Credit cards were declined. She had to cancel brunch plans because she couldn't cover the bill. I should have felt bad. Maybe I would have once. But every time I thought about feeling guilty, I remembered standing in that parking lot, 18 cents in my account, and her saying, "You'll be fine." So I studied. I went to work. I let the system do what I couldn't, and I slept better than I had in months. The universe has a strange sense of timing. My office, Mitchell and Associates, contracted with a collections agency in late October. We were hired to audit their accounts, make sure their billing matched their client records. I was assigned to the project because I was good with data and Dennis trusted me not to screw it up. On the third day of the audit, I saw a familiar name in the delinquent accounts file. My mother. She owed $1,200 to a luxury skincare subscription service. Payments had bounced 3 times. The account had been sent to collections. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. I didn't handle her account personally. That would have been a conflict of interest, and I reported it immediately. But I saw it. I saw her name, her debt, her failure to pay for the very things she'd stolen my future to buy. Dennis reassigned the account to another analyst, but the damage was done. She'd crossed paths with my workplace, and now there was a professional record of her financial collapse. I didn't tell her. I didn't gloat. I just filed the compliance report and moved on. But I saved a copy of that screen, just in case. The letter arrived in mid-November, addressed to my mother. Thick envelope, law firm return address. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I heard her open it in the kitchen, heard the sharp intake of breath, the crumpling of paper. Then silence. She called my phone. I didn't answer. She called again and again, 5 times in 10 minutes. Finally, she left a voicemail, her voice shaking. "Etta, I need to talk to you. This is serious. They're saying I have to repay the fund. They're saying it was educational money and I misused it. I could lose everything. Please call me back. Please, I know we've had problems, but I'm your mother. You can't let them do this to me." I listened to the voicemail twice, then I deleted it. I didn't block her number, not yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. The next morning, she was waiting outside my office building when I arrived for work. "Etta, please." Her makeup was smudged. She looked smaller somehow. "We need to fix this." "You need to tell them it was a mistake." I adjusted my bag on my shoulder. "It wasn't a mistake, Mom. You knew what you were doing. I'll pay you back, I swear." "With what money?" She didn't have an answer. I walked past her into the building and I didn't look back. She tried everything. The charm offensive came first. Text messages full of emojis, promises to make things right, suggestions we go to lunch and talk like adults. When I didn't respond, she pivoted to guilt. "After everything I've done for you, after raising you alone, this is how you repay me." When guilt didn't work, she tried anger. "You're going to regret this. You'll see how hard life is and you'll come crawling back." But the same tactics that worked on me for 19 years didn't work anymore, because I wasn't the same person. I'd changed. I'd grown a spine made of spreadsheets and self-respect, and she couldn't manipulate someone who didn't need her. The trustees' investigation concluded in December. They found that the funds had been withdrawn for non-educational purposes by the custodian, violating the terms of the trust. My mother was ordered to repay the full amount, plus interest, within 90 days. If she failed, legal action would follow. I got a copy of the report. I read it twice, feeling something settle in my chest. Not happiness exactly, just closure. The system had spoken. Consequences had arrived, and I hadn't lifted a finger. The collapse was swift after that. My mother couldn't repay $23,000. She didn't have it. Her credit cards were maxed, her accounts were frozen, and the trust wouldn't negotiate. She tried to borrow from family. Aunt Carol said no. Uncle Mike said no. Even her friends, the ones she'd brunched with and bragged to, stopped returning her calls. By January, she'd lost access to the remaining family trust funds that had been allocated for her. The trustee reallocated them, setting up new accounts she couldn't touch. Her spending ground to a halt. No more subscription boxes, no more department store hauls, no more spa days. She had to get a job, an actual hourly wage job at a retail store. I heard about it from Aunt Carol, who called to check on me. She's working at a makeup counter now. Ironic, isn't it? I didn't laugh. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. Meanwhile, my acceptance letter arrived. Full-time enrollment, starting fall semester. The grant was renewed for my sophomore year. My manager, Dennis, offered me flexible hours so I could balance work and school. Everything was falling into place, not because of luck, because I'd worked for it, because I'd refused to let her destroy me. I graduated in May 2 years later, cap and gown, tassel swinging, diploma in hand. The ceremony was outdoors on the campus lawn with hundreds of families cheering. I sat in the rows of students listening to the speeches about resilience and hard work, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride, not because I'd won, because I'd survived. Aunt Carol came to the ceremony. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Your grandmother would be so proud," she whispered. I believed her. My mother didn't come. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't acknowledge the day at all. But I didn't need her to. I'd learned the hardest lesson life can teach. You don't need approval from people who don't respect you. After the ceremony, I went back to my apartment, the one I'd moved into a year ago after finally leaving my mother's place. It was small, clean, and entirely mine. I hung my diploma on the wall, made myself dinner, and sat on my couch in the quiet. No drama, no chaos. Just peace, and that night I slept better than I ever had. I changed my phone number in June. New number, new email, new address. I didn't tell her where I was going, I just left. Blocked her on every platform, deleted old messages, cut the last threads tying us together. It wasn't dramatic. There was no final confrontation, no closure speech, no moment where I told her everything she'd done wrong. I just stopped participating in her life. People asked me if I felt guilty. Honestly, no. Guilt is for when you've done something wrong. I hadn't. I'd protected myself. I'd set boundaries. I'd let the consequences happen naturally. And if she couldn't handle that, it wasn't my responsibility to fix her. The silence was clean. No more 3 a.m. arguments. No more manipulative texts. No more wondering if she'd drain another account or ruin another plan. Just space, just air, just freedom. I started therapy that summer. Worked through the years of gaslighting, the feelings of worthlessness, the belief that I was selfish for wanting what was mine. My therapist told me something I'll never forget. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I carried that with me, still do, and I never looked back. Today, I'm 23. I have a degree in accounting, a full-time job at a firm that respects me, and a savings account that's growing steadily. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, but I'm free. My mother never contacted me again. I don't know if she's still working retail, still struggling, still blaming me for her choices. And honestly, I don't care. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation. The moral of my story isn't about revenge. It's about this: your worth isn't borrowed. It's earned. And education, real education, isn't just what you learn in a classroom. It's what you learn when you have to choose between staying small or standing up. I chose to stand, and I'd do it again. What would you do in this situation? Would you have confronted her differently? Would you have forgiven her? Drop a comment and let me know where you're from and what you think. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because integrity is a muscle we all need to strengthen together. Thanks for listening. This is Etta signing off.